yet. You know, he was kind of making his own lane. So for him to be able to bring that skill at that position, it just made me lock in even more. Like he could score the basketball without dribbling, you know, and I think that could tell how special of a player you are if you can create space with not having any dribbles. You know, his footwork is immaculate. I mean, he's just creating space off his jabs and doing all that. And then once he created a little angle, it was over. His shoulder was in your chest, and he was getting to his spot and making it happen. So early on, you knew that he was special because nobody else was really doing that. You know, from that position, it was ISO, boom, give me the ball. He got to a spot, and then once he got to a spot, it was a wrap. So I was saying this to you, you know, before the podcast on the phone. I mean, one of the best guys to ever touch a basketball offensively. I mean, the guy, he's a walking bucket, you know, and we were talking about people going back and forth saying, oh, he, you know, with the Knicks, he didn't have a great career, didn't win a championship, or defensively, whatever it is. Man, we can talk about all that stuff, but this man is one of the best scorers of all time. And you know, how he went about game after game. And man, look, what is it, 19, 20-year career, whatever it is. I can't remember a game where he didn't have, you know, under 20 points, right? I'm sure he did. We could go back, but for him to do that continuously, 19 seasons in the NBA, you know, where he's the target every single game. Like, he's the main guy on the scout report. For him to be able to do that and be consistent, unbelievable. I mean, you could probably tell within the first, you know, 3-4 seasons that, man, if he continues this type of play, it's no question that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And in my mind, you know, it was no doubt. You know what I mean? And I don't care what anyone else says. You know, I think that's just for clickbait to say, you know, to have a different perspective on, you know, whatever it is. But this man is one of the best all time with the basketball in his hands, and deservingly so. He you know, he needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
So let me explain to y'all what he's referring to. So this morning, let me tell y'all what happened. He referenced it a couple of times. I wasn't going to bring it up, you know, but I was like, yeah, you know what? We need to bring it up. So this morning, and this one I called Devo. This morning, I'm driving in, taking my daughters to school, and I'll say shout out to Imani. You know, this is her first day of driving by herself. So, you know, she got I was driving behind her. That's what I was doing.
Good.
Don't judge me. You know, I might be a little bit overprotective. You see your parents. I was driving behind her while she drives to school. So I'm listening to Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine on Sirius XM. And it's a good show. You know what I mean? I listen to it a lot of times when I'm driving into school. It's on. They're talking about different things in the league. Sometimes I agree with them. Sometimes I disagree with them. That's just how it is with any show, right? So this morning, I'm listening to them, and they're talking about Carmelo being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And so Frank Isola was trying to make the case that basically Carmelo is a little bit overhyped. That was the case that he was making. He was saying that, well, let me say exactly how he said it. He said Carmelo Anthony is in the Hall of Fame because he won the championship at Syracuse. That's what he said. And then he went on and talked about how if he had been drafted to the Pistons, would his career have been viewed the same? Would he have been wanting to, you know, get out of Detroit because he's not getting enough touches, or he's not, you know, enough in the offense, you know, kind of really casting him kind of like as a selfish player, and all he wanted to do was concentrate on scoring. And then he went on about the Knicks, and he was talking about how he's not really that great of a Knick, and he was talking about his Hall of Fame speech, and he talked about New York and a lot, and he kind of, you know, sarcastically said, you know, he's New York forever and all this stuff, but I don't see him as his great New Yorker, New York Knicks player, and he never got it out the first round. And you know what I mean? A lot of times with Frank Isola, I agree with a lot of his points about the Knicks because I'm a Knicks fan. I grew up a Knicks fan. You know what I mean? But this one, I was like, I wholeheartedly disagree with everything that he is saying. So I hit Devo, and I was like, is this a narrative that is going around that Melo doesn't deserve the Hall of Fame, that he's a selfish player, only concentrated on scoring? Like what? And, you know, I heard y'all make a little bit reference to it, so maybe it's not just Frank Isola who is saying this, but y'all help me out. Like, because I don't agree with that at all whatsoever.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. So if anything, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. If you want to, I think the beef or whatever they had was with when he played for the Knicks. People are saying that he shouldn't have his jersey retired by the Knicks. You know, if anything, they're talking about Allen Houston, John Starks, Charles Oakley, whatever. He's better than all those guys. All right, so that's kind of like, if you have an argument, don't say the Hall of Fame. Say like, okay, he shouldn't get his jersey retired by the Knicks. The Hall of Fame that's a no brainer, right? And you're talking about he's selfish. He's in basketball. There's roles, right? What was Melo's role? Score the basketball, right? You know what I mean? Everybody else is going to get in and fit in, you know, how they can. But his role was to score the basketball. He wasn't a guy you give the ball and he's making plays. Now, could he do that? Yeah, but he was the guy who you get the ball and he's going to score 30 points, right? So I don't really get that perspective where he's selfish and all that. I don't see that. And we could talk about. Let's talk about Karl Malone. Like he never won any championships. I could talk about how John Stockton was the one putting him in position every time to score. He couldn't make plays by himself. I never seen Karl Malone get it and hit you with something and go. Carmelo's 10 times more talented and skilled than Karl Malone, if you ask me. Right? John Stockton was putting him in position every time. Charles Barkley, he doesn't have a championship. So we could go down the list and talk about it. So it's for me. It's his gripe is with the Knicks part of it, like because Melo didn't get out of the first round for the Knicks, or he didn't get it. And we know how New York Knicks fans are, how the media is in New York. If you don't win a championship, you know it's championship or bust, right? They're going to do the same thing with Jalen Brunson. If Jalen Brunson can't get him a championship, they're going to talk about, oh, he was really good, but he wasn't that good, you know. So I think in my mind it's more so about the Knicks than the overall Hall of Fame, because you can't say Melo's not a Hall of Famer. He's the top 10 offensive player of all time, you know? So I'm going to shut that down right there. I think it's more so he's talking about the Knicks side of things. Like they're kind of, maybe we shouldn't have him have his jersey retired for the Knicks because of, you know, A, B, and C. But he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't know. Josh, what you think?
Well, that's a tough comment when he come in first ballot right away. Like, you know, I could see, and then even the ones that were there to support him and they're presenting him, like them is first ballot Hall of Famers up there.
All of them. So
all of them, and then obviously we even go further back to his rookie year. Like a lot of people would say he won Rookie of the Year. Now
should have got Rookie of the Year.
Like that, LeBron is LeBron, but Melo took his team to the playoffs the first year after winning a chip, you know, so on top of multiple All-Stars, gold medals, prestigious career, man. And Eric just said it, like the longevity of his career along with what he was able to accomplish. And I think Hakim said it earlier, like outside of the championship, and maybe like in terms of what he didn't do defensively, like there's no other argument that you have. So that sounds a little bit personal to me, but first ballot Hall of Famer, like, I mean, it's not even an argument.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Craig, what do you think?
Well, if you watch the media at all, I think, you know, there's some good points and there's some bad points, but everybody's just trying to get headlines. And if your headline is just going to be, you know, Carmelo wasn't great, he doesn't deserve what he got, then he's entitled to his opinion, but he's wrong. Obviously, looking at him, you know, you knew from the minute we already talked a little bit about the times at Manley Fieldhouse or at Archibald, where, you know, I remember walking up and down the court, and literally that's all that I was doing because he was just tooling back and forth with Hakim. And you knew from that moment that, you know, those two players were special. They were going to be great. And he just continued, but he had some massive skills at that moment. And he was only 18, 19 years old. And, you know, look at all the highlights he had over his career, you know, knocking down 3-point shots from 3-4 feet behind the arc and taking people right off the dribble, spin moves and slamming it home. And, you know, to do that over 20 years. I mean, I was tired after 4. He did it for 20. Like that, you know, and you look at the people who, you know, who was the number 1 draft pick his year, Billy, he said?
LeBron.
What'd you say?
LeBron.
Okay. So name 2 other guys that lasted 20 years in the league that went like that. You know, they were just marvels of the imagination, and you know, luckily people saw that and encouraged them, and you know, they never lost faith. You know, Carmelo could have, you know, closed things down the second year, third year when people started talking about, you know, no defense, this, that. No, what is he, 8th on the all-time scoring list at this point? Like, you don't do that, even though, you know, you have to ignore the people who don't know what they're talking about and just keep pushing yourself forward. And that's what he's done, and that's what makes him really great.
Yeah, I agree with that point that you have to ignore, but it's hard. It's just, I don't like, you know, and I understand the media, because now you know, me and Devo talk about this a lot, that now we're in the media. Right. And some of the criticism that we got last year was that we wasn't negative enough with the team. You know what I mean? That we were too positive, which is a crazy criticism to get, that you're not negative enough. But that's what people, I don't know if that's what people want or what, but to use a moment where you're going to try to ruin someone's big moment by criticizing them, that's whack to me. I mean, I you know what I mean? There's some elements of me. I've just got to be like, you know, that's like, if you want to talk about that and discuss that some other time and give your opinion, it's your opinion. Like Craig said, you're wrong, but it's his opinion. But why right now, when he's going to the Hall of Fame, when everybody's giving him his flowers and everybody is, you know, happy for him, and he got the moment with his kid, and he got the, you know, everything is all happy, and then here comes somebody just like, you know, well, you know, he never made it out the first round, and you know, it another narrative that they said this morning was, you know, if he would have been drafted to Detroit instead of my man Darko, would his career have been viewed the same? And his point was like, you know, would he have been unhappy? Would he have thrown a tantrum? Would he have not wanted to play? And I was like, wait a minute, why are you even presenting that? Like that he's this selfish player that only cares about himself. You know, I don't know. That bothered me because I just don't think that you try to rain on somebody's parade. You know what I mean? And I see, now is that happening more in the media? I'm sure it's not just Frank Isola, but it's more people saying that in the media? Or what are you seeing, Billy?
I see a lot of times on message boards, and not just now, and ever since analytics has come into play, like Devendorf, he made a good point about roles. So if I get a guy that can facilitate, you know, maybe just take some corner threes and do stuff, we all know that's very important, but that's not the same as when they're gearing up to stop you. Secondly, the spacing now in today's game, like Devendorf said, it was 20 years ago. So a lot of times they're giving them the ball and just saying, get a bucket, where, you know, you're taking much tougher shots. When you actually talk to players, even damn good ones, they all rate him higher. That's it's funny that Iverson was doing the presentation because he went through it so much. And then what I would say when I would hear the Hall of Fame stuff, most people, he's so good they couldn't say he wasn't a Hall of Famer, but they would try to imply almost like not first ballot. And I would just simply say to them, you could make a clear argument that he should have won Rookie of the Year, and his team won that year. He's got like, what, 6 or 7 all NBA, not just that. And then, you know, led the league in scoring, et cetera. And then I think he had one little run, you know, a little bit deeper to the playoffs. They lost in a Western Conference. But all I'm saying is that with those credentials, there's nobody that's going to have that many all NBA teams and, you know, all-star selections doing it. Like you said, the longevity is ridiculous to not say first ballot. Now, what they really want to say is he's not as well-rounded as LeBron, but come on, this is a top 2 player all time. So 10, 15 years from now, like Iverson, people will give him the real credit that I think he deserves and stuff. And like you said, top 10 in scoring, you know, it's ridiculous. So it's okay. He can be at peace.
And look, I think the biggest compliment you could get is when you're hearing it from your peers. The people who like been in the fire with you, who you played against, who are your teammates. I saw an interview with Kobe a while ago talking about Melo was the hardest player that he ever had to guard. And there were multiple people that were saying not only his skill set, but they were saying that they felt it in their chest after the game. That shoulder was going into his chest every single time. And it wasn't just with Melo. It wasn't, you know, some guys, they'll hit you one time down the court and then they miss a shot, or, you know, they get, you know, bumped off their angle and then they stop. Melo was every possession. Bang, 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 bang in your chest. Think about having to guard a guy 6'8", 220, whatever Melo was, and he going at your chest every single time. Like now you see it, I think not the game now is more. It's almost more finesse, where guys are trying to use their skill set to try to like create space rather than get in your body and create space that way by going straight line and playing off the bump. Melo ain't even really have to hit you with anything. It was just a boop. And then once you just hit him with the lean, he was putting that shoulder, and then he was doing that the whole game to you, right? And then when you're hearing it from like Kobe and who else at the position? I know KG was Paul Pierce, LeBron, like he was giving those guys work every single game. So when you're hearing it from them, it's legitimate. When I hear Frank Isola saying it, it's man, listen, I ain't worried about what you talking about. You talk from the quarterback chair or whatever it is, whatever they say, you know what I mean? So when you could hear it from the guys who were in the fire and really played, that's when you know it's real and it's legitimate. These other guys, like Craig was saying, they have to have clickbait. Somebody got to read the headline and be like, huh? And then they're going to click on it. And that's what they want, regardless if it's true or not. So I think hearing it from your peers, that just legitimizes it right there, like how good Melo was.
Yeah. Hawk, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody. And I agree with that guy's take with the like the Pistons. Like if they would have took him, that like it would have been looking at it differently, because he would have probably had a couple championships, and that team could have possibly been like a dynasty, and just something that it wouldn't even been a question if he would have went to that team, because like he's already shown like he's not a selfish player by winning a national championship at Syracuse. The teams that he went to coming in as a rookie, he was asked to score the ball. Took a team that was not in the playoffs and then took them to the playoffs the next year and had some nice runs with them in the playoffs. Same thing with New York. He was pretty much asked to score. He was never on a team with a bunch of guys like in their prime, other all-stars to share that load with him. He was asked to score on most of those teams. So that's what he did. But if he was on a team like Detroit with those veterans and leaders and guys that have won, I think, yeah, it would have been a different it would have been a different story. I thought he might have had a championship or two, and that would have really been able to put to rest that narrative of him being a selfish player and only a scorer.
And he had to deal with George Karl. So that's another story, though.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like,
George Karl.
That's a whole different story.
Man,
that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah,
that's a whole other podcast, a whole other discussion. No, but man,
I'm surprised he didn't say something earlier, because I got George Karl's book, and when I see Melo, like some of the stuff that he said, and the female coach came out, and she's a white lady, and said he's a racist. She was the assistant coach at the time. I'm like, Melo had to have restraint, because I knew they had a little, bump heads. I didn't know it was that severe till more after his career. But let me ask y'all fellas this question. This is how you flip it when they do this. Steve Nash, who we all love as if you're a skills trainer, everybody loves, he plays the right way, et cetera, et cetera. But look at all of the Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers he played with, and he didn't make it even to the finals. And I'm not saying that to diss him. I'm just saying when you like a player like John Stockton, like that, people I noticed, they give excuses. Chris Paul, I'm a big fan of. I'm just playing devil's advocate. But then they would always just get on Melo, and I'm looking like he didn't lose with a team that he was supposed to win. If you give my boy any assortment of Sean Marions and those level of guys are elite thing, I think he's going to win. And he saw that when he gave the Lakers hell that time, so I just thought that people pick and choose, like they say, Charles Barkley, another guy we love, Reggie Miller, and we don't get on them, but yet they would get on Melo. And I just thought that was weird. So once you say that about Steve Nash, they usually pipe down or start making excuses,
No, that's true. What is the hate with Melo though? Like, why is it? What is it? What is the reason? Like,
It's the way,
well, expectations, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's the way he did it, like kind of similar to AI. You know, he came in with his braids, and you know he had the tattoos.
Braids? What a braid? Why they mad at his braids?
He won the championship in college, and everybody was already LeBron this, LeBron that. And again, like we said, he could have been the rookie of the year. Like the way he came in, and you know how he did his thing. He did it how he did it, and even him going to Denver first. I mean, I like that story because he got the opportunity to kind of have to figure it out in a program and with a coach, as we just spoke on, that you know they didn't have it figured out before he got there. You know, he got there, he changed the narrative, got to the playoffs, took that team to the playoffs, a team that wasn't known for being a winning team. So this is something that you know, I feel like the reason why he gets some of the disrespect that he gets. So
yeah, I can't call it. Craig, you got any explanation of why he gets so much disrespect?
I just look at it from a perspective of, you know, anytime anybody shows a level of greatness that the LeBrons, the Carmelos, the Kobes show, there's always going to be that other side of things where it's, well, you're great at that, but you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, how much do you put stake into those other little things than, you know, the fact that his role on every team, as Hack said, was to put the ball in the basket. You know, it wasn't to go up. He's not a massive shot blocker. He's not Hakim Warrick jumping, you know, touching the top of the background or the backboard. He's the guy that you hand the ball to and you kind of watch and say, holy crap, he just did that. You know, it's a totally different mentality when it comes to picking apart stars rather than, you know, and it's just the way that our culture's kind of developed at this point. You know, look at every single solitary conversation you got on any social media about your LeBrons, your Michael Jordans, your Kobes. Everybody, yeah, he was great, but blah, blah, blah. He was great, but you know, Carmelo's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. And I look at people where it's like, you know, they have 6 or 7 championship rings, but they didn't do anything. And you know, you never saw the court. You were, well, what were you? Oh, you were on the team with Kobe. Oh, you were on the, you know, who thinks about the Lakers and thinks about, you know, anybody but, you know, Shaq and Kobe during their huge run. Who doesn't, you know, it's just the way
Bob.
that
Big Shot Bob.
You weren't gonna name his name, Devo.
No, Big Shot Bob. He hit some clutch shots, but I'm just saying he got 7 rings.
I know, but he's not the type of guy I'm really talking
He
about.
got
What I'm
7,
talking
but
about
I'd rather be Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
These are guys with amazing careers that people flood stadiums to watch. There's a reason they're there. And it's the massive talent that these guys all have that brought them there and kept them there for the 20 years of their careers. And they deserve nothing but respect.
You know, one thing I want to ask y'all, I want to ask